Hey, good evening. How are you? How is everybody this evening? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the show. It's Thursday night, guys. We're just gonna hang out. We're just gonna BS, and we're gonna talk about whatever we want to talk about. I'm glad you're all here, guys. We are at 957 subs on the channel. 957 subscribers. We are 43 subscribers away now from hitting our goal of 1,000 subs. If you're one of the people who subscribed recently, but you haven't gotten around to watching a show until tonight, let me just tell you, in case you're not aware, what that means. But first, let me wet my whistle. I got a little wobble pop. So, that's some good stuff. Something for my throat there. When the channel reaches 1,000 subs, we are going to celebrate. Sorry, I was having a lot of people message me all of a sudden. We are going to celebrate hitting 1,000 subs by having a virtual gaming con. I will arrange games. I will have a space set up on Discord where you can come and you can have you can have people come in and game and play games, and you can play games and so on. Tabletop role-playing games. I will be hosting a lot of the games, and I have a whole bunch of people that also want to host other games too. That's how we're going to celebrate breaking 1,000 subs. Now, I will tell you 100% honestly, breaking 1,000 subs means that the channel metrics will be different. I will start being in a slightly higher rotation on Facebook. It'll start getting suggested a little bit more often, and I'll be able to tune some monetization a little bit. It'll help out the channel. So it'll be a good thing, and it's coming up real soon, because you guys are out there promoting the channel right along with me, and you're telling people, hey, check out this channel. This guy's really cool. He's got some cool stuff. He's got some cool videos. He has guests on, and he plays D&D. So it's very, very cool, and you guys are making it happen. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, everyone who's gone out there, not only and subscribed, but everybody who's gone out there and told someone else to subscribe. And I'll tell you, I would do this if I had 10 people. If I had one person sub to the channel and they said, hey, please do a D&D live stream for me, please, I would do it. But we have a bigger family, and that's an awesome thing. And any hitches or problems that come up in the future because we have a bigger family, well, I welcome them. There's good kinds of problems to be had. Growth problems of what do you do when you start to get big are good things to do, and I appreciate the opportunity that's being created by you guys with your input and with your help in making this channel something awesome. So give yourselves a round of applause. You deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. And we are on the cusp right now. I would say we're at the point where I'm bolted in the capsule, and all you guys are down in ground control at your monitors and everything, and we are in like that half-hour hold before launch, and we're going to hit a point where the timer is going to start running, and folks are going to say, okay, go full throttle up, and things are really going to take off, and you guys are doing that because I think, yeah, there's probably some altruism on your part, but you want the gaming con. I know it. I see it. People are out there and they ping me. Can I run this? Can I run that? Oh, I hope I'm able to get in your game. Will you run a game at this hour? And it makes me happy. I'm seeing some real enthusiasm because it's hassle-free gaming, guys. Okay. I don't want to know your booster status. You don't have to. You don't have to worry about getting a hotel room, nothing like that. It's just all together in one wonderful one wonderful online package, the GWOC, as we call it, Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. So I hope you guys are as enthusiastic and as happy about that as I am, because I think it's going to be very, very, very cool. So I've been ignoring my comments, and I apologize. I sound like I'm in a porta potty. So let me see if I can fix that. Greeting Dungeon Minister. Let me see. Am I... No, my camera's muted. Try something here. But if anyone else is having problems with audio, please let me know. But I'm not seeing any issues here. You know what I think? Oh, okay, all right. So I think I know what the problem is, and that kind of dovetails nicely into something that I was gonna talk about. Thank you, Luther. Hello, Celtic Doxy. Hello to you. So is the audio really bad? Is it really that bad, guys? I mean, if it's that bad, I need to do something about it. I'm normally quite clear. I don't know what it could be. My mic settings are okay. Cam mic's off. Is that a little better? I made an adjustment. It's not awful, it's muffled. I'm sorry, I don't hear it, guys. I mean, I can't hear it. Like, I don't have a second audio delay coming into my headphones. It sounds like my mic is not on. Well, no, it's picking it up through the mic. I see my audio mixer is bouncing up and down for the snowball, and I have no other audio source being captured right now. The laptop mic is picking it up. That's so strange. And there's not another device in the room that could be picking up my audio. And let me check my audio settings. I mean, maybe. How's that? Is that better? I think I just figured out what the problem was. So give me a shout if that sounds a little bit better. Hopefully that sounds better. I think the problem was that StreamYard was grabbing both this mic and the mic on the little webcam that I use. Okay, that's what it was. StreamYard was grabbing this mic and my webcam mic that I point at the table when we have miniatures out. So there we go. Hello, Theodore Danson. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in there. But anyway, so those are all good things that are going to happen, and I'm happy about that, and I'm looking forward to it. Something else fun that's going to happen. If you're in the Central Florida area, at the end of next month, I will be a guest at QuestCon Orlando. They have asked me to come down and to give a talk. So I will be doing a guest panel at QuestCon Orlando. I don't know the date. I don't know the panel time yet. Before and after my panel, I'll be hanging out with Tracy Lesh, bumming it down on Artist Row. But oh, shut up, Michael. just shut up, boomer. Yeah, you Gen X types or you Gen Z types are like boomer. Anybody older than like 22 is a boomer to you guys. Anyway, I wear it with pride. Should get a little boomer rainbow. I don't know. But yes, I will be at QuestCon Orlando, having a panel. I will talk about a lot of the stuff that you guys maybe have heard me talk about, although I can't say swears. I shouldn't say swears anyway. The dungeon minister is here. I really shouldn't do it. But I will be there talking smack, talking AD&D, talking about being a writer of AD&D stuff and how you can do AD&D stuff writing. Okay, so things that are going on, things that are moving and grooving. I did this today and it kind of made me sad. The bishop's not here. He was here earlier. Anyway, so born in 72. Yeah, well, you're a punk kid. So I was born in 70. This kind of made me a little bit sad. As I've said before, I'm going to be doing some redecorating out here, which you guys are not going to notice much of. I'm going to shift a little bit in that direction. And this Lord of the Rings mural that you see like 1/32 of here with Arwen's face and Sam, and I believe that's Mary, will be over here. And then like Tracy's painting will be on the door over here. And there will be some, oh, Luther Calhoun, me too. January of 70. What day? If you don't want to dox yourself, that's fine. January 23rd. But anyway, so I will be shifting around. But I was thinking today, this now is a studio for me, less than a game room. Yes, I game in here. I do game in here. But most of my gaming is virtual, right? You know, it's with the Monday night AD&D group, the Tuesday night AD&D group, the Friday night Gamma World group. I don't really have an in-town gaming group anymore. It makes me kind of sad, but there it is. And I was thinking about it today. So I have these chairs. They're super uncomfortable. I don't like them that much, but they're comfortable enough to sit in for a couple of hours anyway. Enough time for, you know, a good medium length AD&D game. I consider 2 hours medium length. 2 hours to 3 hours is medium length. 4 hours is medium long. And once, you know, beyond that, you know, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, you're talking about really long D&D games anymore. But once upon a time, I used to have a game like every Friday night. We'd play AD&D. And for the longest time, it was like awful folding chairs, and it just wasn't good. They weren't comfortable. So eventually, through means, I acquired these event chairs, and I have 6 of them. And 6 of them, plus my office chair over yonder, makes makes 7 chairs, and they more or less fit around the table. Well, again, I don't game in person that much anymore. So I moved all but the stack of 2 that I'm sitting on out into my garage to semi-permanent storage. I don't estimate I'll be doing regular gaming enough that I'll want to bring them back in here, but I moved them out into the outer garage area there, and it's nice because it opens up space.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, passing of an era. So that's something I did today in preparation for the big changeover, the big shift. And I'm looking forward to that happening. Just because as I look around the room, I have so many cool things that I like to share with you guys, and things that I would like you guys to see, like stuff that kind of attracts the eye and stuff that draws your point of view. When you're watching, like, ooh, that's cool. I wonder if he's ever going to talk about that. Items like that you guys can't see. And the reason is they're in stacks and piles on the floor, and they were in stacks and piles on those chairs just because I don't have shelves. I have a little shelf. I have this up here. But I mean, how much stuff can I put on there, and how clear is that? Well, not much and not very. So moving this mural over to this wall and moving me towards that wall and having bookshelves down that wall will mean junk no longer sitting on the floor. But the bookshelves are also about 16 inches deep. So it kind of, it kind of, I was like, well, the chairs have got to go. I mean, I could have moved them around to the far side of the room, which is over where the step up is that leads into the house. See, this is a garage. This is like 2/3 of a garage, a 1-car garage that I sit in here. And of course there's a step up, and then there's a door into the house, and there's a washer and dryer sitting on that step up. And there have been times in the past, and this is not a good thing. This is a little revelation about myself. When I've gotten down, and this is before I was streaming, even when I was just like, I just have wretched days. And I would just bring crap out here, computers to work on, game boxes, books, what have you. And I would have a tunnel that went from the door to my computer chair. No room over here, no room back here where I'm sitting. Just nothing. Just I would jokingly call it my spaceship. You see science fiction movie, the old space pirate comes and he, has to go through an access tunnel and sits down at the control console. And that's, the moment I do this, I'll find a gaming group. Luther, I see your question, and I'm going to answer that in just a second. So, fighting with depression aside, once I just kind of snapped and cleaned things up, and kind of kept things cleanish. Sometimes it's terrible out here still. But the more I kind of looked around, the more I realized that I wanted more. I didn't want this mess that my office had become. And I want stuff off the floor, and I want stuff where you guys can see it. So speaking of seeing things, Luther says, what is that to the left of the top of my head with the red dragon? So what that is the Grenadier Red Dragon layer that Grenadier Miniatures put out. Let me see if I can find this, and I will put a link. Let's see. Let me see if I can find this. So if you go here, I'm going to share this link. If you go to that link and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the box and its contents. Well, you'll see the box, and then there's a picture of the contents. Back in 2005, 2006, maybe, I found that box set on eBay complete. It was like $36. It was insanely cheap, but that it is complete. It is completely complete. The treasure base, the baby dragons, the gemstones, everything. And I was over the moon to find it because I saw one. All right. Oh, we're just talking, Dungeon Minister. We're just talking. Pull up a chair. So there used to be a department chain store here in the United States called Zayre's, and it was like Kmart or JC. Well, not really like JC Penney's. It was more general goods, you know, lots of clothes. It's like a Target. Like if you think like Target, but not as upscale. Zayre's was in a financial death spiral in the late 70s up until they just imploded in like 1988, 1989. Well, it may have been a little bit later, it may have been 91, 92, but they just disappeared. Well, like all stores then, of course, you know, they had a big toy department. But the Zayre's that was near us when I was growing up, other than shoplifters, I honestly think I was the only kid who ever went in the toy department because they had, like, I remember seeing, like, you know, the hooks, the product hooks displays of Micronauts that were so deeply discounted. They were 25 cents a piece. And I should have just gone nuts and just bought all of them when I was a kid, right? But they were all these bad guys, these alien bad guys they introduced way late in the product line. But they had a layer of dust on them. Dust in a big retail store. So I remember going back there one of the first times we visited. And I saw that set, not that exact one. At least I don't think it. I know for a fact it wasn't that exact one. And it was shrink wrapped. The shrink wrap was a little loose in one corner, but they had some Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I remember they had Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, Tomb of Horrors, and what do you call it? Slave Pits of the Undercity. And I bought Slave Pits of the Undercity. That was like the third or fourth D&D book I ever owned was Slave Pits of the Undercity. I think they might have had one of the other Slaver modules. A4 is sticking out in my mind. But anyway, and they had the half shelf cardboard display, the TSR, Your Gateway to Adventure. But the more I would go back, you know, and we would go to Zayre's periodically, I'd go back in the corner and I found out later, like much later, one of the reasons Zayre's collapsed was they just didn't do good shrink control. They had enough shrink that it actually caused enough financial loss to the company. And shrink, by the way, is theft or just loss of product. Like if I don't steal a thing, but let's say I go in with a hammer and I say, yeah, let me see that Curtis Mathis TV. And I smash the glass open and then I run away laughing. That's shrink. You saw me do it. You know I did it. But you can't sell it. It's gone. That profit is gone. Service merchandise. Oh my God, yes. Service merchandise always bored me though. Their stuff was like expensive high-end electronics and jewelry until I found out they sold Commodore 64 games. But anyway, moving on. They just didn't care. And this was around the time when Japanese robot toys were getting big in the United States, like every buyer for every major retail chain was calling up importing companies going, yeah, give me some of those transforming fighter jet things, Macross, and like getting ahead of the game of Harmony Gold, so it's like I still have some kits I bought at TG&Y, which was Zare's discount arm was TG&Y. I still have a couple of small model kits that are Macross Veritex. They're so old they need retro brighting. You put your toys in the corner, you're going to get shoplifters. Absolutely, Dungeon Minister. Absolutely. So I remember seeing they had Dugram models, Fang of the Sun Dugram, which they were much chunkier robots, and I thought they were cooler looking. And all the boxes said like, "Oh, die cast," and I reached to pick one up, and the box was just empty. And I went to pick up the next one, and it was empty. And like all of them, I just kind of swept my hand through, and all of the boxes were empty. Somebody had come through and shoplifted every single one of them and completely cleaned them out. And this was a display of like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 deep by 4 or 5 across. And these things were the princely sum of like $6.99, $6.95. So that was just kind of an example of the theft at Zare's. What this has to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Over time, I saw that D&D standee get thinner and thinner. I don't know if it was through sales or theft, but the books that remained got vandalized hard. All the modules came out of the shrink wrap. I remember going in one day and seeing just the illustration booklet for the Hidden Shrine of Tamokon, just by itself, just lying on a shelf. But over time, like the next time I went in, after I saw and fell in love with the Grenadier Red Dragon set over here, I went in and it was on the shelf, but now the shrink wrap was off. So I was like, well, I'm not going to take anything out of it. Maybe they took the shrink wrap off so you could look at it. It's the logic of an 11-year-old. So I slipped the box off and I saw the inside. And my heart was a flutter, because there was the dragon, all the pieces. But what caught my eye, and my hat's off to you, Grenadier, I haven't seen no miniature company except for Otherworld and their demon idol, which I own one of and I painted up. You guys have seen it before. Has had the smarts to include little glass gems. And I saw that little packet of little glass gems and was like, oh, no way. That is so cool. You can actually, and like my thinking at the time, this is before I'd really been completely sucked into D&D. This is like right at the cusp, like, you standing on the beach and you can feel the tide rushing out and just sucking at your legs, right? I thought, if your players beat the dragon, like you can give them the little gemstones, like just for at the table. But how cool is that? The next time I went in, the top of the box was gone. There was the blue foam insert, the treasure pile, the dragon, most of its pieces missing, and no gems. The next time I went in, there was the dragon's body by itself, box, and all the other bits were gone. So people really, shoplifters, they went nuts. But it's like Dungeon Minister said, you put your toys in the corner and you're going to have shoplifting. And, it killed Zare's, and it sucked because I got some cool stuff at Zare's. We got discount Atari 2600 games. Space Arc by Imagic. We bought that one there. I got Omega Race there for my Vic 20 Omega Race. I bought at Zares. Vic 4th, which 4th is a programming language. 4th is a very ugly, nasty, hard to use programming language. And I know that because I bought it because I misread the box and I thought it was a 32K RAM expansion card for like $12.99. And I had $15. So imagine my shock when I got home and there's a programming manual and I'm like, well, surely I can access the 32 kilobytes that are in this cartridge. Nope. Not unless I'm programming in 4th. But yeah. And then one year it was just, it was gone. Zares was gone. And that was all she wrote. But I remembered that dragon. And when I saw one pop up on an online auction, it may not have even been eBay. It might have been like, what do you call it? Goodwill auction site. And I saw it, man, I jumped on it. When I got it, oh, I was over the moon. It was painted. Someone had started painting it. Terribly, by the way, just absolutely terribly. And I got it and I opened the box and I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. And I poured a little Tupperware tray, you know, the little sandwich boxes. I poured that full of simple green concentrate and dropped the wings of the dragon because it wasn't assembled. Somebody had painted it with the intention of assembling it. But anyway, I dropped it in and the paint literally, like in uniform wing-shaped pieces, just floated right off. And I shared pictures of it with an online group that I was a member of at the time. This is way back in, like I said, like 2005, 2006. And remember, I got 2 comments on it. One person was like, damn, that's a shame, man. Those Poly S colors back in the day, because that was the Grenadier Poly S flow quill model colors for miniatures back in the day. And I put the minis in there and I was like, I took pictures of it and shared it. I was like, oh my God, look at this stuff, guys. The paint literally just floated off in complete sections. And there were a couple of old grognards. I mean, war gamers. Like they hated role-playing games. But I war gamed with them sometimes, and they let me run role-playing games at their events. And I went, I posted the pictures, and a couple of people were lamenting that I had done that. So like, oh man, those Poly S colors are awesome. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with it? You know, just carefully scrape it off back into the bottle and add some foundation and stuff and try and remake 2 or 3 brush loads of very ugly, almost pink colored paint glopped on and the yellow and so on. But then someone else says, yeah, the old Poly S colors, particularly the yellows, are loaded with cadmium, right? Really? Really? Let me just go over and Google how to environmentally neutralize cadmium. I don't know if that was true, but I was extremely careful with it, outside, rinsing bowl, scrubbing it off with a toothbrush and soapy water and simple green. But that's the story of the dragon. Now you know. That's like way more than you possibly could have wanted to know about the Grenadier dragon over my head. And yes, I have all the pieces of it. That box is not taped nor glued to the wall. Very clever mounting system that I came up with for that. And now it's going to have to move. Now I'm going to put it in a tripod or something, one of the little things you can stand a picture frame on. When I move over here, there are 2 rare earth magnets, 3M stripped to the wall. Inside the box are 2 lightweight metal washers. I held the box up, stuck the washers, and then carefully slipped the box cover over. So when I get ready to take it down, which will be in a couple of weeks, I can just slide it off the wall and then pry the magnets off the wall. And this will be covered up, so I don't really care about the paint job or anything on it. This wall, if you see the strip that runs down Darth's face, I'll tell you kind of a frightening story. We were out playing D&D in the kitchen once. As I've said, this used to be a utility room, garage type space. Well, I'll tell you 2 stories about this, but I'll tell you the mirror story first. Whoever owned the house before us used this as like a small home gym area. And to wit, they had a large mirror on this wall, like stuck to this wall. These strips, these discolorations are where the adhesives were that held the mirror to the wall. So we're out playing D&D one night in the dining room. And I don't remember the particulars of it, but I said something about casting a spell, like an evil spell being cast in the D&D game. And there's this crash. I mean, just this earth-shattering crash sound. And I go back and check on my wife because I'm going to make sure she didn't hurt herself and the baby was okay. She's like, yeah, no, I didn't hear anything at all. So we continued on with our game because this door was shut. The door that leads out of my man cave was shut. There was no reason to come back here unless you're using the washer and dryer. So I come out here after the game because I was like, no, it couldn't have been. The big mirror that was almost as wide as this wall completely detached itself and fell off. Now, what's funny is I had been asking my old man, he was still with us at the time, hey, I want that mirror off my wall. How do I do that? I was thinking, Dad, of just getting like a cheap blanket, hanging the blanket up, just duct taping it up, and then just taking a hammer and breaking the mirror, just smacking the blanket. And he said, don't do that. You'll have glass falling down. You'll have shards flying out. Don't do that. If you don't like the mirror, paint over it. But if it's not fixed on with bolts and won't just slide off, because the mirror was like tarnished, like the silvering was tarnished. Whoever had gotten it on the cheap. It's like a discount thing. They obviously didn't give a shit about it. So yeah, just weeks before, I go back and I tell my dad, hey, guess what? So that's so weird though. I mean, just that night while we were here, it just decided to just jump right off and commit suicide. Commit unalive. Oh, I'm going to have to edit that. YouTube's going to get me for that. So that is why there's no, there's no, or there are these strips. But, all this will be changing soon. Very much it will be changing soon. So I'm pretty hyped about it. And at the same time, like I said, I had to give up my chairs. But anyway, moving right along. How about that Lord of the Rings trailer? I'm not going to talk too much about it because the furor, that's furor, YouTube, furor. The furor around it is kind of starting to die down. Nobody is bothering to upvote the Jack Photon making me laugh. Nobody is bringing up the or rather, no, I'm sorry. Nobody is upvoting the trailer anymore. It's just downvotes, and the ratio, it's 102,000 likes to like 132,000 dislikes now. Welcome to the ratio, Amazon. You deserve it. I mean, and they're just in full on, you know, the standard mode that media companies are in. If you don't like if you don't like something nowadays, what media companies do is just accuse you of being the most horrible, far corner of the envelope is the reason you don't like it. Like, case in point, I didn't like Captain Marvel. I don't think the actress portraying her did a good job. I felt it was badly written and badly acted, and I thought the story was weak. If it had been well acted and well written and the story was strong, I would have liked it. But I didn't. I loved Battle Angel. Battle Angel was wonderful. Battle Angel had a woman, Rosa Salazar, in the lead. A strong, independent woman in the lead. But I didn't like Captain Marvel. I didn't like Captain Marvel for the reasons that I just outlined. According to the powers that be, I can't dislike Captain Marvel for the reasons I stated. The only reason that I'm allowed to dislike Captain Marvel, the only acceptable criticisms of Captain Marvel, is that I am a sexist, that I'm a misogynist. That's it. That's the only acceptable answer. With The Lord of the Rings of Power, they are betraying the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. They are abusing the property. The characterization of Galadriel, and I'm not talking about like, oh, well, you just picked that up from like, what, 10 seconds of her in a trailer? How can you say it? No, this is press release. This is press release stuff that they've said about the character. You know? She's a sassy warrior queen and she doesn't have time for you. That's not Galadriel. That is not Galadriel. Galadriel was wise, composed, thoughtful. The characterization of dwarves, Tolkien stated many times how pale dwarves were because they live away from the sun. Tolkien stated, my own feelings in D&D aside, yes, dwarven women have beards to the extent that they cannot be told away from the male dwarves. J.R.R. Tolkien mentioned dark elves. Dark elves is a reference to elves who had not seen the lights of the twin trees of Valinor. That's what dark elves were. They were elves that would not go home and see the light of the trees of Valinor. That's what dark meant. There are persons of color in The Lord of the Rings. Umbar, Harad, Rune. If you were just going to make shit up, could you not have said, here's a character, here's a totally new character. We're making new characters up. Let's make one who happens to look the part. reasonably. Elves are always described as having flowing hair. The elf in the trailer has, I don't know what's going on with that buzz cut of his, but that ain't elven hair. There were plenty of places they could have introduced people of color. Elves and dwarves were not those places. If you were just going to make shit up, which is what they've done, they're just writing Tolkien fan fiction, there were plenty of stories they could have told us. Looking at these and saying, that's not right, that's not true to Tolkien's work, is not an act of racism. Saying you're doing a shit job at characterizing Galadriel is not sexism. They are screwing this up in ways that I cannot fathom. The only thing that I can think they're doing, the only thing that I can think that they're doing is they are deliberately poisoning Tolkien properties so that no one will want to touch it. And it will sit fallow until they can get the whole kit and caboodle at a discount. They're lost leading with the budget they've spent. That's all I can think, because nobody, it is painfully clear that no one at Amazon loves the work of J.R.R. Tolkien. No one working on that show. Oh, they project their own real world sensibilities into it and claim that they do. I mean, look at the videos on YouTube about how these fan reactions are complete astroturf. They're directed to react that way. Guy did a whole takedown video where he's like, they're saying the same things, they're looking the same way. They're like, they're all looking off at the same things, the same groups. But they're getting what they deserve. I hope that the bean counters at Amazon are feeling this right down in their chakras. I hope that the past week and change has been nothing but an unending kick in the groin for them. And that they are going bonkers trying to tell the production company, you need to wrap this thing up in one season, because if you're not going to make major filming changes, we're not going to have a second season. And we can't afford this again. We can't afford something that's going to bomb this badly again. I sincerely hope that is what's happening. You know, I've talked about the power that you guys have just to get a few extra viewers on my little YouTube channel. And you do 957 subs on my YouTube channel because of you guys. Don't think that you don't, that a simple down vote or dislike or upvote or like doesn't mean anything, because it does. I hope that this just wrecks Amazon, that this just leaves a massive hole in their center, and that Jeff Bezos just goes back to playing with his rockets. But we'll see. Only time will tell. As for me, I just walked out of Khazad-dûm. I just left Moria with the Fellowship. Gandalf has fallen. I've stood with Frodo and Gimli and Samwise by the pool of Keled-Zarim, and now Aragorn will lead us to Lothlorien. That's where I'm at with The Lord of the Rings. And they can't take that from me. But speaking of things being taken, moving on, things being taken. And that's not a metaphor, by the way, my Lord of the Rings comments. I'm rereading The Lord of the Rings. I want to look at some comments here. Paul says, I love the new Galadriel. She's the, let me put that up on screen. She's the embodiment of how little this new breed of writers grasp the ideals of poise, grace, and dignity in female leadership. Truth. We could have had an epic story about a Haradrim elephant tamer, but Amazon decided to be lazy. Yeah. Yep. A fade. Yeah, that guy's haircut was a fade. Passerby says, Rosa Salazar seemed to like her role and embrace the character when he did a set visit. If that was acted, I would say Salazar. Yeah, no. Rosa Salazar is fucking fantastic. I can watch Battle Angel over and over again. She is Alita. She absolutely is. Every part of that was, I mean, you want to talk about a proper condensation of manga into, you know, that covers, oh gosh, the first chapter, which is like 18 issues of the manga, I believe. And then throws in a little of the second chapter with a moto ball. It kind of merges the beginning of the second chapter and the end of the first chapter of the manga. And then it throws some new stuff into. But the point is, it's just amazing. It's just simply unbelievable. And I love every bit of it. They're also violating the contract as far as anyone can tell. I'm not a contract lawyer. I would imagine that there's more attorneys just focused on keeping this thing on the straight and narrow than I have subs on my YouTube channel. Like if you include paralegals and runners and everybody like that, I would say that Amazon has a legal team exceeding 957 people keeping the Lord of the Rings on the straight and narrow. Because I wouldn't think it would have gotten this far without massive lawsuits flying. But then who of the Tolkien estate is left to sue? You know? But I was going somewhere else. Speaking of contracts and so on. So yesterday I touched on this, and now I still have not seen the Games Workshop NDA, but that is starting to stink up that far end of the hobby. Now, whether or not this is like bad, like 4th edition D&D bad, or just a ripple in the pond. I mean, honestly, this is like a bunch of warp storms colliding for Games Workshop. We've kind of seen this before. If you're not familiar with Games Workshop and their perfidy, it really started it really started bad in the late 90s. Games Workshop went to a lot of retailers, and I know it 2 retailers in the Orlando area that they went to, and said, we are no longer going to give you deep wholesale discounts. You can buy our stuff at like a 5% markdown. As someone who had for a few months a comics and game store, it was online only. That's bullshit. You can hit sales and store closings and stuff like that and get deeper discounts than that. But worse, there were a lot of people who had little stores and all they wanted to sell was like, I want to sell Warhammer Fantasy Battle Bretonians and Empire. That's it. Don't want a bunch of orcs, don't want a bunch of demons, don't want a bunch of squats, don't want a bunch of halflings, blah, 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 blah. And they, you know, they were getting the discounts. Well, they stepped up and said, if you don't have a brick and mortar store, you can't sell GW products anymore. And that included Lord of the Rings. I was buying Lord of the Rings sets online from little stores. I loved GW's metal Lord of the Rings figures. They're some of the best fantasy miniatures to come along. How many people can say they have a tiny metal Brad Dourif sitting on their bookshelf? Well, I do. Speaking of people screwing up Lord of the Rings, so they basically started burning companies that since the early to mid 1990s, businesses that had been a big part of their support base. So if you didn't have a huge storefront and you weren't moving all flavors of Space Marines, all flavors of Warhammer Fantasy, and all of the Lord of the Rings minis, they didn't want to have anything to do with you. They didn't want your business. They didn't want you to stock their stuff. And you weren't going to get deep discounts. It was pretty rough. I know people that it affected. And it was getting to the point, it was very much getting to the point where GW was essentially telling independent stores, go jump. They did this in major cities. They would come in and they would sit down and they would have meetings. It's very Walmart-like. And they would talk to these retail, mom and pop comic book store retailer. And they go in and they'd say, yeah, how much product you ship in, blah, 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 maybe get them to buy a few custom deluxe sets, that sort of thing. Then they'd open a Games Workshop store just up the street. And they would have game days and paint and takes and so on and etc. Anything to drive those stores out of business. Even stores that almost exclusively sold GW stuff. But man, if you were a big store and you had Reaper paints and Reaper minis and Ground Zero Games rules in addition to the Warhammer 40K stuff, they didn't even want to hear from you. But they do what they could to shut you down. And they did it from the beginning of the 2000s for years. And the price march continued on. And where things really began to really get awful was when they said, well, we're going to look, you guys have been bitching about price. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce resin minis. Minis made out of it's a wonder material. It's called fine cast. It is a plastic-like material that holds detail as good as metal. So they began to release tons of minis, and they started canceling metal. They said metal's too expensive. Now, China, stay with me, China was going haywire prior to the 2008 housing bubble burst, when the global economy started to cool off. The primary components of pewter or white metal miniatures, of which Games Workshop was a huge manufacturer and consumer, are tin, antimony, and lead. Yes, there's still lead in minis that don't have any lead in them. Well, three materials that you need for welding, for soldering, for making metal studs, internal studs, are tin, antimony, and lead. Did you notice how as recently as like 2003, 2004, you could get a metal mini for as cheap as like $2.99, $3.99, $4.99 right in there? And nowadays, a single metal mini is like $8. If you go to somebody like Dark Sword, I am not bashing Dark Sword, by the way. I love Dark Sword minis. Their minis are so nicely done. I think they're worth the price. They're boutique pieces. But Dark Sword minis, $10, $12. GW continued on with metal minis and was charging upwards of $10, $15. But they said, here comes Finecast. Finecast is awesome. You're going to love Finecast. Finecast almost immediately became a meme. Finecast minis were full of bubbles, printing errors. They were awful. They were absolutely awful. And Games Workshop's response was, the new casting machine, the computer chips in the new casting machines have to be fine-tuned. Now, Games Workshop stores and some of the bigger retailers who have to send things, but like if you take a item that's opened of a Games Workshop back to some big retailers, they'll just be like, can't help you. It's the wrong stuff. Bye. Sorry. And they would definitely do that at GW stores. The only quarter that GW would give was when Finecast got so bad that they told retailers, okay, look, if anybody for any reason is not satisfied with their Finecast models, swap it for another one. Just give them another one. Not give them their money back. So if you got a bad batch of Tau, Fire Warrior, Commander, Shadow Sons, and they all had bubbles in different places, and yeah, I'm using that for a specific reason. And you started going through the rack, and everyone had bubbles, and the one you just paid $24 for had bubbles in it. Well, too bad. When these sell out, I'll restock. Maybe you can bring it back then. And that was GW's attitude. But here's the thing. They pitched Finecast. Now, this is all ancient history. So if you've heard this before and you're like, Bill, this went on in like 2010, 2011. It's fine. It's fine. We're getting to it. So if you had screwed up Finecast Mini, and you can't, it was just terrible. And finally, after excuses and lies and made up bullshit about Finecast, and we're going to fix it, and it's going to be better, and it's just you, and so on and etc., GW caved and they stopped using Finecast. But the thing about Finecast was they said it's a cheaper process. The march of expense you're seeing on metal minis because of the price of base metals, it's not going to be as severe as on Finecast. They have never brought the price down. They said the materials are cheaper, the manufacturing process is cheaper. Finecast is the way forward. They never dropped the price. Finecast minis were never cheaper than metal ones, and they were never meant to be cheaper than metal ones. And they had unwanted intercourse in the hindquarter areas of their entire fan base with Finecast. Literally, the only rumor that proved not to be true about the awfulness of Finecast was when someone said, hey, I heard that Finecast, like if you leave it in your car, like on a hot summer day, like, you can get up to 120 degrees in a car, 150 degrees if you're in like Arizona or someplace, it'll melt. It wouldn't. It stayed solid. A guy did a test. He set one on his dash, did a little thermal, did a little digital thermometer thing. It's like, it's 110 degrees in my car. I'm going to leave this here. He came back a couple hours later, still solid, rock solid. So that was the Finecast saga, and eventually they just said, look, they're just all plastic now. They're just GW plastic. Just it's ABS or whatever the frig their plastic is. Polyethylene, polystyrene, whatever it is. That's it now. But the prices have never gone down. The prices have just gone up and up and up and up. And they've deleted on their metal miniatures as hard and as fast as they can. You can still find a few metal minis lurking in the dusty corners of their online store, but they're mostly gone now. But so what, right? It's no big deal. Except we now live in the age of 3D printing. GW pooped themselves in fear and anger when 3D printing started to become a thing. I remember seeing Wired.com. There was a bit of a brouhaha. GW was concerned, is this 3D printing thing going to catch on? And I remember they showed a picture of a 3D printed, and this was back when like a simple 3D printer, like that you had to build yourself. Like you'd get parts. And I remember reading this as it was like, the first thing you do when you set up your 3D printer is you have to print parts to make it better. Like you can just barely print up the pieces to put together to make a better 3D printer than you have. I remember reading that. I was being like, huh? Joshua Garlock asked, do I own any old Grenadier AD&D minis? Lots and lots. Yes, I do. I have quite a few. Let me finish my Grenadier story, and then I'll talk about the Grenadier minis that I have. I promise. So, Grenadier, Games Workshop. Building the plane mid-flight. I remember seeing a dreadnought, which is just this kind of rhomboid shaped robot with two little stumpy R2D2 like legs and stumpy claw like arms. It's supposed to be like horrible and frightening on the battlefield. It just looks kind of silly. I remember seeing an early 3D print of one, all in green plastic, that same shade of green that houses in Monopoly were. And I swear the lines were like as thick as my finger, like the build lines on it. And it was like that big. It was the most, I was like, Games Workshop does not need to worry about this. These printers are thousands of dollars, and that's the best they can do. I don't think GW needs to worry about that. Computer technology marches forward. I have a cheap printer, and I can and have produced pieces, broken pieces, replaced broken pieces and whatnot for my for many of my minis, just with that. So GW has freaked right the hell out. They have circled the wagons. They've gotten more and more protective. And I think the culmination now of their dick move is the NDA. And this just dropped. I don't know all the details yet, but the NDA basically says, if you're affiliated with us, and we'll define what affiliated means, by the way, and as long as you are affiliated with us, and we'll define what as long means, you cannot badmouth us. And by badmouth us, we mean negatively compare us to other products. We really don't want you comparing other products to ours anyway. In fact, don't even talk about other products, even if you're not talking about our products. If you say you're a Games Workshop YouTube channel, social media influencer, whatever, if you come in and start singing the virtues of Army Painter's contrast paints over ours, we can sue you, or we can shut you down, and we can shut you out of our little walled garden, and you'll never get GW news. You'll never get GW exclusives again. And we'll tell everyone you did it. Are you a 3D printer? Stop it. Stop talking about 3D printing and stop talking about our stuff in 3D printing. Don't put our minis on camera with shit you 3D printed or homemade terrain. Don't do it. Now, I've completely skipped over stuff like GW trying to claim that power armor and the terms Space Marines belonged to them. I've skipped over all of the IP that GW steals to glom into their little fucking Monty Python meets Star Wars tabletop game that's been limping along for almost 35 years now. I've skipped over all of that because honestly, you guys have to get up and go to work in the morning. But the NDA that they have demanded that media influencer, GW, do you not understand these people are out there for free getting like a miniature? Here's 5 miniatures. Okay, well, I put out 5 videos a week. Okay, here's your free shit. All right, each one of these cost Games Workshop 60 cents to produce. And you gave me 5, that's $3. Amortize that over the 40 hours a week I put into my channel. Yeah, GW, you sure did pay me, is what people would say. And now they're sending out this NDA and they're demanding that the people they throw pennies to, but still enthusiastically belly crawl on camera for them, sign this NDA. That's some pretty big D20s right there. And that they have a line of people willing to defend them. It just blows my mind. Look, I'm a capitalist too. I like to make money too. But dear God, Games Workshop is evil. They steal from people and will say, yes, we did it. We stole from them. Do something about it. Do something about it. Games Workshop is ruining tabletop gaming, and I wish they didn't exist. Games Workshop, are you out there? Are you a Games Workshop influencer? Do you go talk on Games Workshop forums? Do you know people who have Games Workshop channels and directly talk to Games Workshop people? If I'm getting through a channel there, Games Workshop, you are a bad company. You sell bad products. You present them badly. You treat the entire industry bad. You are bad for hobby gaming. You are a poor company. And that BlackRock Investment Group gets just a little bit richer because you turn the thumb screws just a little bit tighter on the people who still play your games doesn't make you a success. It doesn't make you good guys. Last I heard on her CV, Lorraine Williams had listed, engineered a major turnaround at TSR Hobbies. Yeah, you sure did, Lorraine. You turned it right around, pointed it at the airport, and flew it into the ground. And that's what GW is doing. And I hope this is the final straw. I hope you wake up and all you have is a few thousand sycophants clinging to your legs, begging for freebies at paint days, who watch Warhammer TV. Because the people who put their heart and their soul into supporting what you did and made things like Astartes and funny stuff like If the Emperor Had a Speech to Text device. And maybe even me. Are you going to decide that my Space Hulk Let's Play, if that ever gets monetized, that you're going to have to come after me? I'll delete it. I'll happily delete it. I'll happily delete it and never say a good thing about a 40-year-old game that you once made ever again. Ever again. It won't happen ever again. All right, I'm done talking about Games Workshop. Got my blood up. Anyway, Joshua Garlock asked, Bill, do you own any of the old Grenadier AD&D minis? I do. So I have that dragon. Like I said, I got one of her. And it's a her because there's baby dragons. But, maybe it's dad. Maybe mom's off devastating a village. But yes, I have that one. And let me just turn around here. You get to see my best side now. I have, I picked these up for a song. The Wizard's Room, the box is unfortunately munged. It makes me very sad. I have the Wizard's Room, which is, it's a fun bit of terrain. It's an actual bit of dungeon scatter terrain, I believe they call it now. And I could have sworn I had the paper insert for this. Maybe it's in the bottom, or maybe I'm just confused. Okay, I guess I don't have the paper insert for it. But so I have the complete Wizard's Room, which is to be painted. This is the wizard, a cauldron, sort of a fireplace thing that the cauldron is setting in, a pet giant lizard, a table, a bookshelf, some pots of gold, a little treasure chest, and a couple of barrels. It's just what appears on the box. And I have this is the Orc's Lair. And again, not Orc Slayer, the lair of orcs. The Orc's Lair. And this I do have the insert for. Oh, and hanging out in there is a piece of it, which won't show up on camera. So showing it to you guys is a bit kind of pointless, but it's a little banner. I'm sure you guys can't see that the orcs carry. But the strange thing about this is it's not almost said printed. It's not sculpted on one side. So it's like, it's only if you look at it from one side, it's literally a two-dimensional piece. It's very strange. So I don't intend to use it. The banner bearer, I'll come up with something better. But this is the standard bearer, the one I was just complaining about, the archer, captain, axeman, with war axe. That's a separate figure. Shield man, priest, shaman, and swordsman. This is the 28 millimeter. This 25 millimeter fantasy figure set is specifically created for the fantasy role-playing gamer. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sorry, advanced role-playing game. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It is a trademark and is owned and licensed by TSR Hobbies. The policy of Grenadier Models is to constantly upgrade our products, and we reserve the right to alter specification and contents without prior notice. Figures 1980 Grenadier Models Incorporated. And it's not intended for use by children under 10. There's an asterisk that denotes assembly. And I have a lot of loose minis. So some minis that I like to use with on the rare, diminishingly rare occasions that I get to play Twilight 2000. But Grenadier, in diversifying right after they left TSR, introduced what they called a hobby line. They weren't necessarily gaming miniatures, except they were totally gaming miniatures. But there was Fantasy Lords, and then there was GI Combat Unit. And both were sold under the brand called Pinnacle. If you look up Pinnacle Miniatures Grenadier, you'll find them. Now, the GI Combat Unit's a little weird because they went for like almost a science fiction, like the sniper is designated in the box like he's a laser sniper, and then there's a guy like riding a column of flame on a jetpack. So it makes them a little hard to use with modern stuff, but the rest of them are okay. Like there's a guy with an M60 and dude with a pistol, another dude throwing a grenade, some guys with SMGs, and so on and etc. And I picked up one of those back in the 90s. Well, no, I picked it up in the 80s and had it. And then I gave it, or I asked a friend of mine, Toby Stidham, who was really good at painting, if he could paint them up for me in exchange for half of them if he wanted. Otherwise, I would pay him. And he said, I'll take half of them. So he picked out the ones he wanted and painted the rest. Well, he painted all of them and then gave those to me. And I've had them for years. They are lovely, and I dig them. They are so nicely shaded. They were some of the best painted minis I've ever seen, ever. I should put them up, like take photos of them for you guys. But the fantasy miniatures were the Fantasy Lords. Let's see. Wow, so many came with those. There was a Conan-like figure. There was a centaur, a ninja, a druid, a knight with a mace, a knight with it's just called a dragon knight, and he's got like a war pick, the end of which it looks like it's the ends of the pick are its snout, are the end of a lizard's snout and a lizard's tail. What else did I mention? A druid, an archer figure, and just a lot of cool ones like that. And I ended up with 2 of those, and I traded some of them away for some other figures, but I still have most of those. And those have served me well over the years. Now, someone gave me several boxes of miniatures not too long ago. Hello, Joe, if you're watching this. That has a bunch of Grenadiers. I can't even remember all the Grenadiers that are in it, but most of them are post TSR. They're Dragon Lords series, which are true 25 millimeters. So it's a little wonky to put them next to like a 32 millimeter, mini from any studio today. It's like, haha, this is a knight in shining armor with a 2-handed flamberge. Okay, well, this guy is a This guy is a halfling thief, and he's like taller than that dude, you know. But also in a box of scrap minis, another friend had given me was the entire Expert Hirelings set from Grenadier Sans box, all of the minis. So I took those out, primed them up, and you may remember last year I started painting them up on camera. They're still in progress. I still haven't finished them. Calvinoni says, an old school miniatures group, we can identify them. Yeah, I think I should take a picture of Unknown Miniature and share it with these guys, because I'm on the mini group too. And then I forget. I get distracted by something shiny. Dave says, give me one of those chunky Grenadier minis over plastic any day. I think it depends on the plastic mini. What I have seen from WizKids is they're extremely hit or miss. I have some WizKids minis that are pre-paints that are gorgeous. They're just beautiful minis. I have some WizKids unpainted minis that are effectively faceless. The characters in question are effectively faceless. So it's like, wow. Dungeon Minister, yes. If Cal and I are talking about the same place, that group is on Facebook. So, speaking of miniatures, as I've been telling you guys, I've been 3D printing some Cold War, now Hot War miniatures of 1/100 scale armor fighting vehicles. And now that I'm starting to get my printer settings dialed in, they actually look pretty good, and I'm very happy with the results. Siocast is revolutionizing minis soon. You're gonna have to tell us more about that, Cal. I'm all about revolutionary minis, but I've been printing up 1/100 scale minis. Now, I talked a little bit about this last week or the week before about the Sergeant York DVAD, the air defense vehicle, the maligned ACAC gun on treads that the Army built 50 of and then canceled. But so there's a Twilight 2000 Facebook group, and I'm not slamming those guys. If you're from there, don't at me and say that I'm saying bad things. But so I'm printing these things out and I'm getting really good. But here's the thing I've noticed with the vehicle minis is I think a lot of or the vehicle models, the 3D models, is I think a lot of them are designed to appeal to the military modeler, which is fine. If you military model, that's awesome. Like I go into a local hobby shop sometimes in the Orlando or Central Florida Military Modelers Association. Like I see some that like just that's not a model. You have a shrink ray. You know, I can see like a footprint in the dust on the hull of that tank. It's that detailed and they're gorgeous. They're so beautiful. And I think a lot of the 3D models that I've been finding and converting down for tabletop use are like that. And the reason is they're in pieces. They're literally in pieces. So, fortunately, 3D Builder, Microsoft 3D Builder comes with the Windows. They snap to but I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, having a moment. So you have a tank. You download the model, and here's the hull of the tank, you know, the armored box itself. Here's the treads and the wheels set in. Here's the turret, here's the main gun, here's the greeblies that go on top of the turret, and they're all separate pieces. 3D Builder will for Windows. It's built into Windows. You can load a model in 3D Builder, and it will snap things to polygons. Like when you get a piece close, it will click it. Most of the time, if you're lined up on at least 2 axes, when you bring it in, it snaps into the right place. And if you're off, you can just drag it till it's in the right place and then check it out versus a photo or whatever. And you're like, good to go. So I'm on the Twilight 2000 Facebook group, role playing in the aftermath of World War III, AKA this summer. And so I said, hey, I can give back to the community here. It takes like 15 minutes finagling with 3D Builder to take these, snap them in place, scale them down to 1/100 if they're not already, and then I can just share them to the Facebook group. Now, I will argue the point with you, Cal, that 3D printing is not just okay for terrain. What some people are doing with resin, like 3D printed resin, it's as good as commercial quality, which is one of the reasons why I got a resin printer. Now, for FDM, for the plastic, it draws the plastic back and forth. Yeah, I don't try and make tabletop minis with that aren't vehicles or terrain. I mean, I did some big monsters with it, which are okay for tabletop use to show up on camera, but for individual characters, no, I can't wait to get the resin printer turned on. But I will look into what Effin Cool is doing. I like Effin Cool. So, anyway, to move on, or to jump back. So, one of the most ubiquitous vehicles ever made for the United States Army, and it is one of the most produced tracked armored vehicles of all time, is a vehicle called the M113. No, it does not have a name. It is not called the Gavin. All right. If you want to fall down a rabbit hole, like if you're sitting around on Saturday afternoons and you're just like, all the honeydews are done, the lawn is shoveled, it's miserable cold outside, there's no sports on, I got nothing better to do, Google M113 Gavin, and I'm sorry. I apologize in advance if you do that. But it's called the M113, period. Sometimes it's called by its designation, the M113A1. The M113 was the first one they built. The first variant was the A1, the A2, the A3, the A4, the A5, the A6, and so on. More radical variants, like there's an anti-tank version that had a 4-tube tow missile launcher that is like, it like rise up like a cobra head and pan back and forth and fire a missile, and then when it hit the target, it just fold back down and they could scoot away. That had a completely different. That was the M901 ITV, improved tow vehicle. And then there's the M981 Fist, forward improved strike vehicle, but it's an artillery vehicle. For in the heat of the battle, a crew can be armored and roll up behind the tanks and so on, and it pops its boom up and looks around and targets enemies for destruction with its periscope like boom. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of variants. NASA has 2 M113s. If a rocket goes boom on the pad and the astronauts make it to the shelter rooms beneath the pad before that happens, the M113s can roll in, dodging debris and burning pools of fuel, and get them out of there. So even NASA has tanks. So I ask over on the Twilight 2000, I'm sorry, one more point. There are many variants, and the thing saw so much service in Vietnam, and so many were given to Vietnam that I think, I could be wrong about this, don't quote me on this, but I think even today, Vietnam, albeit is ostensibly a communist country that is aligned with China, they're not. They're our friends again. They kept using them. The engine for the thing is a Detroit diesel. It's a 6-cylinder Detroit diesel engine. It might be an 8-cylinder. But the kind of engine it is ubiquitous across the planet. It's used in buses, like city buses today use it. It's just that, it's that common. So them just saying, oh, well, the Americans are gone. We beat the South. We've got 1,000 of these things. Even if we keep 500 for parts and put 500 in the field. So, because we had so many over there, crews and whole units, as a matter of practice, would do different things with them. Like the armored skirts, you see a tank and it looks like half of its wheels, like you can only see like the bottom half of the wheels and a little bit of the track. That's an armored skirt, because where the axles for the wheels go into the hull is a potential weak spot, and it's a shot trap. It's where a bullet can go in and zing around and do more damage. So some crews, though, just because mud would get caught up in the treads, and it literally so much mud and sticks and debris and rocks and stuff that it could cause a tread to come off, and then the crews go, oh shit, okay, so we got to try and relink the tread, and okay, well, we couldn't do it, it's too deep in the mud, we got to call a rescue vehicle, hope we don't get shot. So a lot of crews would just literally unbolt the skirts, the side fenders, use the metal for more armor elsewhere on the vehicle, and go like that. So I asked in the Twilight 2000 group, hey, I'm going to share an M113 model with you guys. Skirts or no skirts? And every other person was skirts, and every other person was no skirts. And then I had people, because I'm like, hey, I'm going to upload this M113. And people like, have you got the M113A2 with the external fuel packs on the back, not the internal fuel packs like appears on the M113A2 mod 2? And I'm like, oh my God. Guys, there's literally as many variants of this thing as there are members on the group. I'm happy to help, but honestly, it's like, I'll make you an improved tow vehicle. I'll make you a fist vehicle. I can do a few fun variants, but if I make one for each of you, it's going to be crazy. And I don't have a problem with the guys. Like, it's just like, come on. It's just one, and it's in 1/100, guys. It's like I'm not uploading like a shoebox sized, high detailed, version of it. It's just 1/100 scale, sitting on a table with 35 other minis. Nobody's going to come along and go, that's an M113A2. That's period incorrect. At least I don't think so. So that's just kind of a funny thing. I love, even if I can't print them and share them with people all over the world, if I can snap the 3D model kits together and then unify them as a single 3D object and then share that with people and say, you can now print this on your printer. Here you go. Just start cranking out M113, start cranking out Abrams tanks, T-80 tanks, yada, 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 on down the line. More power to you, and I hope it helps you out with your hobby. But I just, I was just like, skirts or no skirts, guys, come on. You're asking me for, what about the Dutch version with a heavy gun turret on it? Well, I suppose, how about the Japanese version, which has a command radio on the left-hand rear side? Well, it's funny you should mention that. Hey, how about the version that has the lowered ambulance deck on the back for case evac? Well, the model will be closed up. Do you have the version that has the command radios? It's just for the Australian. And I was like, you just, gosh, it's fun though. It's good stuff. I just, somebody, we'd been talking, can I give you one with a driver named Steve? That I can do. I have the STL file for M113 with driver named Steve A3. Let's see. Cal was smack talking 3D printing. Not crazy about the resin material. I'm not crazy about the material either. The results are awesome. FDM is kind of a pain in the butt to work with, but whatever. Resin is, oh dear God. When I got my resin printer after the fiasco a couple of weeks ago, it's like, this is why I wasn't going to get a resin printer. So I hope soon I get a good resin print or two out of it. I mean, I was just wishing on a dream a few weeks ago, and I saw some resin printers that, like, literally you take the cap off the bottle and shove it onto a thing and give it a half turn, and it just drinks resin as it needs it. It doesn't, there is no, it just like, oh, that's how big the thing you're going to print is. And it just pumps exactly precisely the amount of resin into the reservoir. And if there's any left, it drains it right back out and puts it back in the bottle. That printer is in excess of $26,000 because it has multiple bays for multiple colors. So you can do stuff like rapid prototyping. I want a model of the human arm, just the musculature, and I want the colors to be more or less accurate to this. No problem. Starts working away, For larger models, they're great. Yeah. I mean, for an FDM for larger models is fantastic. I have, I am looking right now at a Pokemon that's about that tall that I made for my youngest daughter. She wanted me to paint it up. It's sitting over there. It's nicely detailed. My oldest daughter, I made her an Eevee Pokemon. Frostlass, that's the one I made for my youngest daughter. I made Eevee for my oldest daughter. What is it? A couple of years ago, I made Diva's gun from what is that game? Oh, crap. Overwatch. That was a huge print. That took like 36 hours because the gun is like this long, like laid sideways on the print bed. It was nuts. Cal says, I like supporting the. Oh, I do too. Trust me, I'm not like, when I get my resin printer set up, I'm not like just like, well, goodbye Dark Sword, goodbye Otherworld, goodbye effing cool, even goodbye Reaper. Trust me, I'm not saying just get, once you have a 3D printer, just never buy a miniature again. There's going to be sculpts out there that I can't get anything like. I had somebody asking me about a mini for their character in my Monday night game because I mentioned the fact, hey, I've got a resin printer now, and they told me, it's this, and this. So I said, awesome. And I looked up and down, even for pay. They were willing to pay for it. And there was nothing like what they wanted. I went and looked at Dark Sword. I showed him literally the first thing I found with the criterion. He was like, oh, that's it exactly. I even tried to make it in Hero Forge, and he was like, well, I guess it would okay-ish, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if that's what we got to do. But I showed him the metal sculpt in Dark Sword, and he was like, I will buy that and send it to you if you will paint it for me. And he's not even going to get it, right? It's like, it'll come here for use on my table with a camera pointing at it. Cal says, Dark Sword, I haven't gotten to yet. Cal, Dark Sword is beautiful. Look at their Larry Elmore fantasy. Everything about Dark Sword is just so pretty. Oh my God, Dark Sword minis are gorgeous. I have a couple of Dark Sword minis I haven't painted yet because honestly, I'm not worthy enough to paint them. Like, I will ruin them. They won't look good when I'm done. They won't look good when I'm done. There's a few that I have, but mostly my Dark Sword minis have gone unpainted because my skills are not up to that quality of sculpt. Which I'm not just picking on myself. It's really the truth. So you're talking about cyber generation. Yeah. I mean, that's like a half step out of the way, because it's like print on demand, 3D print on demand. It's now an online thing. It's like not even like, go to the store. And there's not even a storefront. The storefront is on the web. Dark Sword is a great series of novels by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Have not read them. I have not. But it's a great line of modules, a great line of miniatures. Damn it. A great line of miniatures. And I do recommend their stuff wholeheartedly. But there is some stuff that I'm looking forward to printing up in resin. I only have a few more minis to paint, like 5,500 or so. Yeah, that my wall of shame ain't that bad. I have maybe got a couple hundred, but nothing like that. I just want to paint them all before I'm dead. You know, I just want to get them all done before I drop dead. But I tell you, and I think the book came out before Cyber Generation, was The Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson. That was the ultimate print on demand future. Anything that you could throw, I mean, it was like Doc Brown's fusion mate, insta fusion thing on the DeLorean. Mr. Fusion, that was it. Doc Brown's Mr. Fusion. You could collect garbage and take it to your maker. Not your maker, but that was the machines they were called. They'd take it to a maker and throw it in, and it would produce basic goods. It was a post. All right. Post scarcity is where we live now, regardless of what may or may not be missing from your Western grocery store. Post scarcity is where there's a crash, which is where some people think we're headed now. Diamond Age is post scarcity, because it reaches a point where anything and everything is commoditized to the point that handmade items are the things that are truly valued. And that's kind of an undercurrent. It's really about a lot of different social situations. But my mozzarella sticks. This is it. The end of the empire. That's funny, because I was walking by the frozen food the other day. I was like, damn, they only have like giant boxes of mozzarella sticks, not like the 1 dozen You know, they're like $3.99. It's like I got to buy $11 worth of frozen mozzarella sticks. But yeah, in Diamond Age, it's just like, what do you need here? It'll print out. It's not a pleasant world. I would go bonkers in the Diamond Age world. Which, by the way, the Diamond Age is a distant future sequel to Snow Crash. And Snow Crash is a post-scarcity world. There's an elderly character, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there's an elderly character in the Diamond Age who was a character in Snow Crash. If you've only read Snow Crash and you're on the fence on the Diamond Age, it is a blink and you'll miss it. But when you see it, your whole perspective on the Diamond Age and on Snow Crash will change. Just everything will click. Damien says, we got meat, but the pasta is gone in my part of Palm Beach County. Dungeon Minister, I suspect it won't be a trend soon. It'll be a necessity. Yeah, that may be. See, now here's an interesting thing, and I don't want to get caught up too much in this because it's kind of depressing. I bought not quite 2 pounds of steak, good steak, New York strip, for $16 the other day. Maybe a little less. That's about on par. That's the way it was back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That was a good price. But then in the same market, the whole section, the entire cold dairy section where cream cheese was empty. It was empty. They had put bagels, bags of bagels they had put in there, and I guess turned the temperature down a little bit. But bread can get cold. It's fine. No cream cheese. I went to a different market, same chain, Publix, today, just 4 miles, 5 miles away from that one. My travels just took me in another direction, and I bought my groceries there. You wouldn't know there was any scarcity at all. Cream cheese? Hell yeah. I even have my favorite beer. Okay, that was in the package store next door, but so I guess the managers at the one that is closer to me are crap at ordering stuff. And it comes and it goes. We're at that stage where the lights are flickering, but the power hasn't died entirely. Yeah, it's like when you got your LED flashlight, and it's like you turn it on and nothing happens, and you smack it against your hand and it's shining bright, and then drops like to half that, and you kind of shake it and it gets back up to 2/3 of the brightest that it was when you first turned it on and smacked it. You're like, oh, okay, it's good. I think that's where we're at right now. The second Publix was not across the street. It was down. It was down a county road. Like if you went up from the Publix and turned right on a major county road, that county road would take you to the front door of the next one. Bill just dropped a fucking bomb on my knowledge of Neal Stephenson novels. Yes. Now you're going to go back and reread both of them, aren't you? Reread Neal Stephenson and reread Snow Crash and reread Diamond Age. Because Diamond Age is a sequel to Snow Crash. But the connection point, it is as rigid and as inflexible as tungsten lined titanium. You will just be like, Now I get it. Now I see. So, oh, Dungeon Minister, 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It is, oh my gosh. People say that Quag Keep is the first D&D novel. It's not. It's 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. 3 Hearts and 3 Lions is achingly beautiful. Just, oh my gosh. I have not read a fantasy novel as heartbreakingly wonderful outside of anything J.R.R. Tolkien has written as 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. Pearlandra from C.S. Lewis comes close. The opening few chapters of Pearlandra, like, if they were a painting, if someone could accurately one-to-one to the exact precise notion depict Pearlandra in painting, and I saw it, I would fall on my knees and weep. That's how beautiful Pearlandra is. And 3 Hearts and 3 Lions is a little bit more wonderful than that. And I think you're going to love it. In Pinellas, we have several intersections. I believe it. I've been over to Pinellas County. I know. We got a lot of Florida people in here tonight. Who else? Damien, Michael Connor. We got a lot of people. I think Doomsword is from Florida too. Passerby says, no, I got to finish this. Yeah, Doomsword. There you go. So if I do decide to, if I ever have to follow through, and I don't think I will, but if I ever have to follow through with my threat of I've gotten 10,000 subs on my YouTube channel, and now I'm gonna now I'm gonna have an actual in-person con, I'll at least have 4 people, myself and 3 others, right? Well, guys, I think, when we drop down to 5 viewers, we're probably at the point where I've sort of chewed all the flavor out of this gum. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up on well, not a positive note, but a hopeful note. Corian says, famous last words. The answer, Dungeon Minister, is yes. If you pardon me, I'm going to ride my methed out gator out of the room and then throw it at the drive-through clerk at the Wendy's. No, I just to get a little serious for a minute here, and not talk about elf games. The world kind of feels like it's on the brink, and this is 3rd or 4th time in my life when I felt like that. Not my world, the world. We sort of lived under, that felt like the hammer was poised above us, just drawn back, sort of Damocles, would say, call it what you will, for most of my young life. And then it seems like we got a break. And then, a terrible, terrible morning in the autumn of September, or in the autumn of 2001. And I had hoped that those things were in the past. Well, hope in vain. So just keep love on your mind, guys, and hope for peace. That's all we've got. We can disconnect for a few hours, once or twice or 3 times in my case a night, and play elf games and just kind of shut the world out and be there for each other. So I say this to you tonight. Let us not forget there is hope. With that, I bid you adieu. Have an absolutely wonderful evening. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to play some Gamma World, probably a little bit of a preamble beforehand. Next week, intelligence analyst, game designer, author Michael C. will be live on this channel. Probably have Michael on Wednesday or Thursday, and he's going to talk to us about wargaming and gaming in general, and just whatever makes him happy. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you all tomorrow night. And I'm going to steal a little page in closing from Nick or Kata. Nick, please forgive me. I'm not trying to bite on your style, but I mean this in all sincerity. Peace. Peace.